Semis under pressure today. The SMH ETF is down more than 3%, led lower by NVIDIA. AMD is also in the red, and that name is reporting earnings tonight in overtime. Joining me now, Stacey Rasgon, Bernstein Research Senior Analyst. Welcome back. It's nice to see you.
Good to be here.
It's funny, there's a lot that matters in this report, but even you suggest that all that probably will matter to investors is the AI story.
Yeah, that's probably going to be top of mind for most investors. That seems to be for AMD what they've cared about. Frankly, it's what's really, I know the stock is down off the peak, but if you look over the last year or two, it's still up quite a bit. Numbers have actually mostly come down for them over that period. The whole thing that's been supporting the stock has been increasing expectations for that AI story. And I do think that's where investors are going to be focusing their attention tonight.
So he's talking about AMD's most recent earnings report, which has already been released, and we've got this information already. This is before that report was released. As we can see in this video, the current market price that they're looking at is $137 per share. We do know now that even though there was a lot of positive information that was released in the earnings report, the AMD share price has continued to decline, and currently we're looking at a prior close from the last Friday trading session at 132.50. So we do know that we do know how overall the earnings report was received. But in this video, what we're really going to be looking at is going to be the comparison between NVIDIA and AMD, because this information is still relevant going forward and will continue to be relevant for quite some time.
Okay, well, what's most important to watch as it relates to that?
I mean, it's the guide for their MI300 business, and they've been sort of ticking it up through the year. They went from, I can't remember, $2 billion to $3.5 billion. Now the guide is $4 billion. I'd say expectations have gotten even higher than that. I think expectations for most of my clients have been in the $5 to $6 billion range. Maybe given the drawdown in the stock, maybe they're a little lower now, 4.5 to 5, but they clearly need to take that guidance for the year up. I think if they don't take it up, nothing else is going to matter, regardless of what happens in the rest of the business.
So for anyone that's not aware, AMD reported that the company sold over $1 billion in MI300 chips during this quarter. That's under discussion here. And in the data center category for AMD, revenues surged by 115% on an annualized basis. So these were very, very strong numbers, very positive numbers, far surpassing market expectations. But as we can see here, the share price did continue to fall as a broad wave of selling pressure, sort of continued to grip the markets during this period.
How much of AMD's issues, I mean, if you even want to use that word, and maybe I'm wrong to use it, is simply the fact that it's not NVIDIA?
People have been looking at AMD as a second source. There's a view that, NVIDIA is clearly fairly dominant in what they do, and the market needs a second source. And it's a big market in theory. People have been throwing out numbers, that it's hundreds of billions of dollars, which actually is not implausible. But the idea that they can get a relatively small piece of a very big market that could drive a lot of upside. And I think that thesis on its surface makes sense. I think the issue such it is, and again, I always say this, I don't want to knock AMD for what they are. I mean, they're doing, even if they do $4 billion this year, it was zero a year ago. Okay, so that's objectively by itself, that's quite the accomplishment. But in the grand scheme of things, frankly, it's kind of a rounding error given the magnitude of what we're seeing from their competitors. And if you're looking at sort of, especially as you're going forward, you're looking at the competitive roadmaps between the two, it's getting tougher, not easier. I mean, right now is probably the best position competitively that AMD is going to be in if we're looking at what their competitors have next year. And again, if they can't significantly upside in that environment, like how do you do it as the competitive environment gets tougher, as the roadmaps continue to evolve? So I think that's the issue. It's not that they're doing anything wrong. I'm actually kind of impressed with what they've been able to do with what they have over the last year or two. But given what they're up against, it's just a tough fight. That's all.
So this argument that AMD is simply not NVIDIA on its own seems to be a bit of an argument that lacks substance. This doesn't seem to be incredibly meaningful in terms of the operational outlook for both of these companies. But as we can see here, if we look into the market reaction in the trading periods that have followed this period of time, we can see that NVIDIA has overall fared a bit better in terms of the lack of selling pressure that has been seen. To be perfectly clear here, most of these stocks are trending lower. But as we can see, there has been more of a bounce to the upside with NVIDIA, despite the fact that NVIDIA did not actually release earnings. The main event risk near term for AMD is already in the rearview mirror. We've already received that earnings report, and the company did beat expectations. The earnings per share figure came in at 69 cents rather than 63 cents. And the company also beat on the revenue side of the equation. So, overall, whether or not these price moves make a lot of sense really does seem to be in the eye of the beholder here, because there is a strong argument to be made that AMD really should not be selling off as strongly as it is right now.
It almost you sort of make my point of the question that I asked you, right? They're doing all these things, and yet the stock's down 7% year to date. It's down 15% over a month. They theoretically have a good story to tell with a good storyteller at the top, and yet it's not NVIDIA.
It's look, even NVIDIA and lots of the other AI names are down recently. So like the whole, I don't want to say the shine's coming off the AI story. I'm still very bullish, like on AI stories in general, but certainly, that whole narrative has come under some pressure. AMD's also been hit by some more company specifics up. There's been some speculation of some of the issues, some potential technology issues with like the high bandwidth memory on their parts, and maybe some order pushouts or order cuts, which have impacted the stock, I think, more recently. And again, I think as people are doing the comparison on the roadmaps, again, people are starting to realize it's just tough. And then you look at where the expectations are. Like, again, you got to remember, this is a company where numbers overall for them have come down every single quarter for the last 2 years, right? So it's not even like you've got a fundamental, backstop to help things. Like, all of the stock performance has been multiple expansion as numbers have come down. We're now at the point where AI actually now starts to need to drive upside to numbers, and expectations are already high. And if you can't drive upside to those expectations, you may have an issue.
So overall, we will continue to watch both of these stocks. They're both very important stocks within the AI space, within the gaming space, and within the central processing, the CPU space. We will continue to watch for developments in both of these areas. But the recent declines in AMD do seem to be a bit larger or outsized relative to what might normally be expected. Currently, we're looking at support levels coming in at just above the 130 mark. This price low from the 1st of August comes in at 130.24. So this will be an important level to watch for the downside to see if we're able to see any bounces from here. So far, bounces have been quite minimal, as we can see if we sort of move into the chart a little bit here. And then currently resistance to the top side comes in at 140.03, which is also roughly in line we're in line with where the exponential moving average cluster currently rests. In my view, this is where the stock will need to break above in order to start taking pressure off of the downside. So here's the current market update for Advanced Micro Devices Incorporated, stock ticker AMD, and NVIDIA Corporation, stock ticker NVDA. Our high value trading strategies membership is currently available for a limited time for only $9.99 per month. These high conviction investment strategies are characterized by superior risk to reward metrics that target massive market beating returns over time. Join now to outperform the market, lock in this special introductory rate of just $9.99 per month for the entire lifetime of your membership, and start trading stocks with the pros.